Okay.
Alright, so, hey everybody, this is my update. I got the skull case finished. Um, it's not complete because I don't have the program, but I added a little something extra special right here, and that is the ability for it to come out of the hole like that. Mainly because eventually I want to put a door a porthole door that opens and closes. Um, and I thought he was too far back in there, and I wanted him to be able to look out and look around. So I gave him that ability, and it was simply I just put that whole gizmo that I showed you in the other video on a hinge with a servo. You got a good shot of that there? The other thing that I changed was, in the other video, if you go back and look, you'll see his side to side had a big arm hanging out of it, right? Well, I didn't like that, so I made this cable pulley system instead that goes up in the middle of his tube and connects to the U-joint. And it basically does the same thing. Gives him the side to side, but now I don't have that big rod sticking out the side in it. I thought it gave it more of a floating skull effect. When I cover all this down here with fabric, that hole in there, it'll give you a nice dark effect, and you know, inside the computer you won't have all this light. All this I'm going to leave open. It'll be inside the computer, and since it has plexiglass sides, it'll let it, you know, you'll be able to look in and see it all, which I thought was kind of a cool thing instead of covering it up, which I could easily do with pieces of, you know, hobby plywood. But I'm not going to go that route. So you see, I still got the same one servo here for the up and down of his head, and the cables for the side to side, and the servo here for the whole thing to move forward, giving you a forward and back motion. And of course two more servos, one for his jaw and one for his left and right inside of his head. And let me go put him in and cut it off.
Okay.
Alright, now you'll notice that the case that I made it out of is really nothing more than two fans that didn't work, and I gutted them and kept the frame and a fan tube glued between them, and then an actual working fan on the back. And so this will still give my case airflow, and it's going to be a pusher fan, so I don't have to worry about it sucking dust in from the front. It's just going to be relatively clean air from inside the computer exhausting out, which also makes installation really easy, because now you just put it right in place where the hole is, and 4 screws, and he's in. And if I need to work on it, it should be a real breeze, you know, 4 screws, boom. Well, of course, you know, the portholes will come off, but I mean, overall, I didn't have to drill any extra holes in the case, which is always a plus, especially when, like this one, they cost like $400 friggin'. And then I'll show you the electronics tray once I get that's done, and then we'll fire the whole thing up. I know the light's miserable in here. Let's see if a flashlight helps. Whoa, maybe not. At any rate, here we have my Scary Terry audio board and my SV203. My skull's installed. Right now I'm using a RC battery pack to run the SV203 because my computer is only putting out 12 volts and 5.4 volts. One's too high, one's too low, and I have to build a voltage regulator to drop it down to the 6.5 that I need. But for test purposes, I got everything hooked up and I'm using a RC battery. There's the serial cable connection right there, which is hooked up, which is hooked up right there to my serial port. I know I probably just could have made my own cable, but you know, I'm just trying to get things to work, and I'll worry about, you know, pretty stuff later. This is a great angle to see my installed mounting device. This servo, the larger high-tech, controls the forward and backward motion of the entire skull, whereas these two smaller ones are pan and tilt. And of course the skull itself has the jaw and the turning axis inside the skull. And in this hole over here, we are going to put my Pirates of the Caribbean skull, and this fan's going to come out, and hopefully a cannon will go in it. This short course is going to close. So I got everything hooked up, and we're just running a test using a very simple that came with the SV203 slider program. And it just lets you slide the sliders up or down, changing the servo configurations and therefore moving the skull. Later on I'll get a more advanced program that lets you add in music and time it and save it and whatnot. But here, this is the first slider, S1, which is controlling tilt. It's a little jerky because I'm overkilling it on moving it. Here's left and right. And here's a quick up and down. Let's see, S4 is his jaw, and S5 should be forward and back, which is my new addition to the skull. Yeah, pop right out at you. So when the door is going to be closed, I can move it back in. When the show starts, he can come out and look up a little better. Yep, and then he can even come out even more and look around if he wants. And that's about how it's going to look. I got to put the porthole back on and the Black Pearl name tape, and of course my DC converter and the VSA program to run it. But I'd say we're about $100 away from finishing this project, and it's looking really, really sweet. All right, that about wraps it up. For the skull project for now. As I've said many times, I still got to buy the software. Once I get the software, though, it's gonna just really change, what you're seeing. When it'll really bring it to life. All in all, though, I think I really got ahead on this project. And okay, one more really bad skull joke. What does my skull project in this video have in common? Nobody's gonna watch it. Y'all have a good one.